are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my series review of the Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show, as well as links to friends of the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. A couple things to keep in mind as we get started here. Continue on here with the series. First of all, there may be thoughts and or words in Fort's books here that you and or I do not agree with. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again. Also, there may be things he talks about that seemed anomalous to him and everyone at the time that have, in the last 100 years or so, been sort of figured out by science. And of course, the last thing is I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of words and names, as talking can be difficult, and not everything is in English in these books. So last episode, we went through a ton of just random reports of just odd things seen in the sky and in the air and near space. It literally went on for like 2 pages straight, no paragraph breaks, which is really threw me off, but it was really amazing just listing sighting after sighting of these anomalous things. And again, this is before the idea of UFOs or aliens was really common. So we're going to continue on here. I'll figure out where I'm going to stop when I feel like it, and we'll go from there. So getting back to the book here, he says, I think that with the object known as Eddie's Comet passes away the last of our susceptibility to the common fallacy of personifying, there we go. Personifying, that's where the sentence ends. If I could see that period, that'd help. Illusions. Wow. Can't read either. It is one of the most deep-rooted of positivist illusions, there we go, that people are persons. We have been guilty too often of spleens and spites and ridicules against astronomers as if they were persons or final unities, individuals, completenesses, or selves, instead of indeterminate parts. But so long as we remain in quasi-existence, we can cast out illusion only with some other illusion, though the other illusion may approximate higher to reality. So we personify no more, but we super-personify. We now take into full acceptance our expression that development is an autocracy of successive dominance, which are not final, but which approximate higher to individuality or selfness than do the human tropisms that irresponsibly correlate to them. Eddie reported a celestial object from the observatory at Grahamstown, South Africa. It was in 1890. The new dominant was only heir presumptive then, or heir apparent, but not obvious. The thing that Eddie reported might as well have been reported by a night watchman who had looked up through an unplaced sewer pipe. Unplaced, sorry. It did not correlate. The thing was not admitted to monthly notices I think myself that if the editor had attempted to let it in, earthquake or a mysterious fire in his publishing house. The dominants are jealous gods. In nature, presumably a vassal of the new god, though of course also plausibly rendering homage to the old, is reported a comet-like body of October 27th, 1890, observed at Grahamstown by Eddie. I'm guessing that's the last name because they really don't use first names. It may have looked comet-like, but it moved 100 degrees while visible, or 100 degrees in 3/4 of an hour. See Nature 43-89 and 90. In Nature 44-519, Professor Copeland describes a similar appearance that he had seen September 10th, 1891. Dreyer says in Nature 44-541 that he had seen this object at the Armagh Observatory. He likens it to the object, excuse me, that was reported by Eddy. It was seen by Dr. Alexander Graham Bell. Oh, interesting. September 11th, 1891, in Nova Scotia. But the old dominant was a jealous god. So there were different observations upon something that was seen in November 1883. These observations were Philistines in 1883. In the American Meteorological Journal 1-110, correspondent reports having seen an object like a comet with two tails, one up and one down, November 10th or 12th, 1883. Very likely this phenomenon should be placed in our expression upon torpedo-shaped bodies that have been seen in the sky. Our data upon dirigibles or super zeppelins, but our attempted classifications are far from rigorous or are mere gropes. In the Scientific American 50-40, a correspondent writes from Humacao, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Puerto Rico, that November 21st, 1883, he and several other persons, or persons as it were, had seen a majestic appearance like a comet, visible 3 successive nights, disappeared then. The editor says that he can offer no explanation. If accepted, this thing must have been close to the Earth. If it had been a comet, it would have been seen widely, and the news would have been telegraphed over the world, says the editor. Upon page 97 of this volume of the Scientific American, a correspondent writes that at Sulphur Springs, Ohio, he had seen, quotation marks here, a wonder in the sky, close quotation marks, at about the same date. It was torpedo-shaped, or something with a nucleus, at each end of which was a tail. Again, there we go. The editor says that he can offer no explanation, that the object was not a comet. He associates it with the atmospheric effects general in 1883. But it will be our expression that in England, and Holland, a similar object was seen in November 1882. Let's see here. In the Scientific American 40-294 is published a letter from Henry Harrison of Jersey City, copied from the New York Tribune, that upon the evening of April 13th, 1879, Mr. Harrison was searching for Borson's comet. Never even heard of that one. That's amazing. When he saw an object that was moving so rapidly, wow, excuse my voice tonight, that it could not have been a comet. He called a friend to look, and his observation was confirmed. At 2 o'clock in the morning, this object was still visible. In the Scientific American Supplement 7-2885, Mr. Harrison disclaims sensationalism, which he seems to think unworthy, and gives technical details. He says that the object was seen by Mr. J. Spencer DeVoe of Manhattanville. Did I skip a spot? Is there a page here? Nope, that's where that chapter ends. Okay. So, moving on to chapter 25 here. But yeah, this has been amazing just going through all these and just experience after experience, account after account of weird sightings. Chapter 25. A formation having the shape of a dirigible, in quotation marks there apparently. It was reported from Huntington, West Virginia, Scientific American 115-241. Luminous object that was seen July 19th, 1916, at about 11 p.m. Observed through, in quotation marks, rather powerful field glasses, in quotation marks. It looked to be about 2 degrees long and half a degree wide. It gradually dimmed, disappeared, reappeared, and then faded out of sight. Another person, as we say, it would be too inconvenient to hold to our intermediatist recognitions. Another person who observed this phenomenon suggested to the writer of the account that the object was a dirigible, but the writer says that faint stars could be seen behind it. There we go, that's fascinating. This would seem really to oppose our notion of a dirigible visitor to this earth, except for the inconclusiveness of all things in a mode of seeming that is not final. Or we suggest that behind some parts of the object, thing, construction, faint stars were seen. We find a slight discussion here. Professor H. M. Russell thinks that the phenomenon was a detached cloud of aurora borealis. Upon page 369 of this volume of the Scientific American, another correlator, mostly correspondent, suggests that it was a light from a blast furnace, disregarding that if there be blast furnaces in or near Huntington, the reflections would be commonplace there. We now have several observations upon cylindrical-shaped bodies that have appeared in this Earth's atmosphere. Cylindrical, but pointed at both ends, or torpedo-shaped. Some of the accounts are not very detailed, but out of the bits of description, my own acceptance is that super geographical routes are traversed by torpedo-shaped superconstructions that have occasionally visited or that have occasionally been driven into this Earth's atmosphere. From data, the acceptance is that upon entering this Earth's atmosphere, these vessels have been so racked that had they not sailed away, disintegration would have occurred. That before leaving this Earth, they have, whether in attempted communication or not, or in mere wantonness or not, dropped objects which did almost immediately violently disintegrate or explode. Upon general principles, we think that explosives have not been purposely dropped, but that parts have been racked off and have fallen, exploding like the things called ball lightning. May have been objects of stone or metal with inscriptions upon them, for all we know, at present. In all instances, just real quick too, there have been way earlier in the book, before it talks about objects that apparently fell from the sky, stones and metal and all that, that appeared to have been carved or formed or have symbols on them. So he's not just bringing this up out of nowhere here. So let's see here. In all instances, estimates of dimensions are valueless, but ratios of dimensions are more acceptable. A thing said to have been 6 feet long may have been 600 feet long. Shape is not so subject to the illusions of distance. That is something you hear about even now. People have sightings of things in the sky and they can't always figure out how far away it is or the size of it because of just the way our eyes are and sky is and all those things. Let's see here. I'll keep on going for a while longer. Nature 40-415. That August 5th, 1889, during a violent storm, an object that looked to be about 15 inches long and 5 inches wide fell rather slowly at East Twickenham, England. It exploded. No substances from it was found. Can't say the name of this one. It's in French, I believe. Scientific is part of the title. 1864-54. That October 10th, 1864, M. Leverrier had sent to the Academy 3 letters from witnesses of a long, luminous body, tapering at both ends, that had been seen in the sky. In Thunder and Lightning, page 87, Flammarion says that on August 20th, 1880, during a rather violent storm, M.A. Trécul of the French Academy saw a very brilliant yellowish-white body, apparently 35 to 40 centimeters long and about 25 centimeters wide, torpedo-shaped, or a cylindrical body with, in quotation marks here, with slightly conical ends, close quotation marks. It dropped something and disappeared in the clouds. Whatever it may have been that was dropped It fell vertically, like a heavy object, and left a luminous train. The scene of this occurrence may have been far from the observer. No sound was heard. From M. Tracule's account, see Cantus Rendus 103-849. Monthly Weather Review, 1907-310. That July 2nd, 1907, in the town of Burlington, Vermont, a terrific explosion had been heard throughout the city. A ball of light, or a luminous object, had been seen to fall from the sky, or from a torpedo-shaped thing, or construction in the sky. No one had seen this thing that had exploded from a larger body that was in the sky. But if we accept that at the same time there was a larger body in the sky, my own acceptance is that a dirigible in the sky, or a construction that showed every sign of disrupting, had barely time to drop whatever it did drop, and to speed away to safety above. Let's see here. The following story is told in the review by Bishop John S. Machad, I'm not sure, quotation marks. I was standing on the corner of Church and College Streets, just in front of the Howard Bank, and facing east, engaged in conversation with ex-Governor Woodbury and Mr. A. Buell, when, without the slightest indication or warning, we were startled by what sounded like a most unusual and terrific explosion, evidently very nearby. Raising my eyes and looking eastward along College Street, I observed a torpedo-shaped body some 300 feet away, stationary in appearance, and suspended in the air, about 50 feet above the tops of the buildings. In size, it was about 6 feet long by 8 inches in diameter. The shell, or covering, having a dark appearance, with here and there tongues of fire issuing from spots on the surface, resembling red-hot, unburnished copper. Although stationary when first noticed, this object soon began to move rather slowly and disappeared over Dolan Brothers' store, southward. As it moved, the covering seemed rupturing in places, and through these, the intensely red flames issued, in quotation marks. Bishop Machad attempts to correlate it with meteorological observations. Because of the nearby view, this is perhaps the most remarkable of the new correlates. But the correlate now coming is extraordinary because of the great number of recorded observations upon it. My own acceptance is that upon November 17th, 1882, a vast dirigible crossed England, but by the indefiniteness of all things quasi-real, some observations upon it can be correlated with anything one pleases. Let's see here. All right, we'll at least get through this next paragraph and on to the next page. E.W. Watch, it'll be like a 2-page long paragraph. Anyway, E.W. Maunder, invited by the editors of the Observatory, that's publication, to write some reminiscences for the 500th number of their magazine, gives one that he says stands out. Observatory 39-214. It is upon something that he terms, in quotation marks, a strange celestial visitor, close quotation marks. Maunder was at the Royal... Yep, look at that. Whole page. It's still the same paragraph. Royal Observatory, Greenwich, November 17th, 1882, at night. There was an aurora without features of special interest. In the midst of the aurora, I can have a hard time saying that word, a great circular disk of greenish light appeared and moved smoothly across the sky. But the circularity was evidently the effect of foreshortening. The thing passed above the moon and was, by other observers, described as cigar-shaped, like a torpedo, a spindle, a shuttle. Let's see. Okay. The idea of foreshortening is not mine. Maunder says this. He says, in quotation marks, had the incident occurred a third of a century later, beyond doubt, everyone would have selected the same simile. It would have been just like a Zeppelin. In quotation marks. The duration was about 2 minutes. Color said to have been the same as that of the auroral glow in the north. Nevertheless, Maunder says that this thing had no relation to auroral phenomenon. Quotation marks here. It appeared to be a definite body, close quotation marks. Motion too fast for a cloud, but, quotation marks, nothing could be more unlike the rush of a meteor, close quotation marks. In the philosophical magazine, 5-15-318, J. Rand Capron, in a lengthy paper, alludes throughout to this phenomenon as an auroral beam, but he lists many observations upon its torpedo shape and one observation upon a dark nucleus in it. Host of most confusing observations. Estimates of height between 40 and 200 miles. Observations in Holland and Belgium. We are told that according to Capron's spectroscopic observations, the phenomenon was nothing but a beam of auroral light. In the observatory, 6-192, is Maunder's contemporaneous account. He gives apparent approximate length and breadth at 27 degrees and 3 degrees and a half. He gives other observations seeming to indicate structure, quotation marks, remarkable dark marking down the center. In Nature 27-84, Capron says that because of the moonlight, he had been able to do little with the spectroscope. Let's see here. Okay, I think we will end there. Because it's starting another experience here, or account here. So yeah, that'll do it for tonight. Amazing, all these accounts of experiences, 1800s, early 1900s, of objects that you might hear about in more recent times. Cylindrical, torpedo-shaped objects seen in the sky, um, things falling, but then nothing there. The distance and the size issues are also fascinating. But that'll do it. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to y'all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.